Hey everyone, here we are starting off a new series. And before we get into that, I want to talk about, I'm doing this thumb thing that people do when they talk, and it drives me crazy. And I always mock it when I see it, and here it's become a part of me. And here I am doing it like a clown. Lesson videos. Let's talk about that for a minute because they're often boring. I know that. They're not always fun to make. But when I was thinking about lesson videos that I watch, particularly youth lesson videos, there's a few things that I picked out that I often see in them. And a lot of times when they're talking, they're just in this big open space with not a lot going on, right? Either they're sitting in a big warehouse with nothing but a brown couch and a lamp and something trendy over here, or just out in the middle of nowhere. So I was thinking, I'm gonna do the opposite of that. I'm gonna have a lot going on back here, and instead of one couch, I'm gonna get as many chairs as I can find. So here we are, hoping to mix it up. There's probably 4 of you that watch this, but I hope there's more of you because we're gonna be talking about this for 3 weeks, and it's important information, and you wanna know what you're talking about when we get to small groups. So, have you ever felt like you live in 2 different worlds? Like you have the world where it's your friends and school and your teammates, and then there's the other world of home. A lot of times we act very different in these different groups, and we tend to have multiple groups, and we wear a different mask when we're in those groups, and we act different when we're in those different things. But for a moment, I want you to think about one really weird thing you do at home that you would never do at a friend's house or out in public. Think about that weird thing. We all have one. It can be something simple, like I like to dip my finger in the peanut butter jar and eat it and just put it back on the shelf. Or it could be like, I like to go home and change my clothes into footy pajamas and make everyone call me Captain Cuddles. I don't know. Well, all right. Think about that weird thing for a moment. Marinate in it. Feel even weirder that you do it now that you're acknowledging it. Okay? Okay, I think you got it. I've got some. The thing is, I think at home we feel that we could be our realist self. Either the realist self or just our worst self. And no matter how we are, I think it all boils down to asking the question of, how does this affect me? And how we treat everyone else is based on how we answer that question. How does this affect me? Like, what are the things that trigger you at home? Right away, you get off of school, you go home. The first thing I always wanted to know is what is for dinner? Is it gonna make me happy? Like, I know it's a community meal with our family and it's an important thing, but what are we eating? And am I gonna lose my mind if it's something that I don't like? And would I act that way if I was at a friend's house? Of course not. I was, oh, Mrs. Smith, this is just the best. I wouldn't say, oh, Mrs. Smith, I prefer my steak well done. Of course not. But we treat people very differently, and it's all on how does this affect us and how comfortable are we in treating you a certain way. Like my sister, I could write a script and hand it to one of her friends, and I could do and say something to her and have her friend do and say the same exact thing, and the way she responds to each one of us would be drastically different. And I think you all know what I mean. I think you have similar things in your life, and you know that you treat people poorly just because you love them and you know them, and you have kind of an excuse to be awful to them or be super great to them or whatever. Like, you know what I'm talking about here. The question is, like, what can we do about that? Because it's not a healthy thing. It's not how you have healthy relationships or not a really peaceful life and world around you. So this series is about doing the next right thing. So over the next few weeks, we're gonna be looking at the life of Joseph. I love the story of Joseph. Probably one of my favorites. He's one of the most famous people in the first half of the Bible. He's the guy who, like us, he finds himself in just situations where he just doesn't know how to handle them. He's also the one who Jacob, his dad, made the colorful coat. We all know that. And it's basically the coat that told his other siblings, like, he's my favorite, he's the best, I love him the most. So already he's got a target on him. So in the story, on top of him already being the favorite amongst like dozens of brothers, he starts having these dreams. He starts having visions. And he's sending this message by sharing his dreams and telling his brothers of what these dreams are, basically saying, I'm already the favorite among our father, but like you're all gonna bow down and worship me, right? So in Genesis chapter 37, verses 6-7, he said to them, listen to this dream I had, you guys. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. His brother said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him, all the more because of this dream and what he had said. And we see throughout his story, like, dude, Joseph, just keep your mouth shut. Like, you're causing more problems for yourself by talking. Just calm down. So for a younger brother to tell his older brothers, like, I'm going to rule over you, already not a great start. But can you imagine the tension in the family? Like, there's one dad, there's 4 moms, and there's dozens of brothers, and he's saying, I'm going to rule over all of you, and you're going to bow down to me. So here we see Joseph behaving in a way that a lot of times we do ourselves, right? He was super aware of how he was being treated, but not super aware of how he was treating other people. Like, he knew that he was the favorite, and he acted on that without realizing how it was coming off to others. And his brothers, in the same way, were aware of how they were being treated with the unfairness and the injustice, and they retaliated and responded accordingly. So the truth is, even though these few verses are about a weird dream about crop culture that we don't understand in this day and age, and about a coat that is probably pretty ugly. I don't know, it could have been a beautiful, beautiful coat. I wasn't there. But we are reading the story to remind us that, 1, to show us that family and relationships have always been complicated. 2, to teach us to pay attention to how our actions and even our situations affect the people that we live with and the people that we just spend time with. And 3, to remind us that the tension left unresolved will never just go away. It always just escalates. And we'll find out next week how Joseph's situations escalate. So this week I want you to pay attention to how you treat people in different groups and the tone that you use in response to things that they say and do to you. And think over your week, and if there was a moment where your family did something or your parents said something to you that just really made you angry, and how you responded to that, and think about if your best friend would have done that same thing, would you have responded the same way? Or if your best friend said something and you responded, would you respond the same way to your family? Because I think the way we react in different areas, it all has a much deeper reason behind it. And I want you to think about that. Think about why you respond to some people and why you act to some people one way and you do something very different to another group or another person. So we're gonna talk more about this in small groups on Sunday, 6:30 to 7:30. We're all gonna be there in person, outside. Bring a mask, bring a chair, don't bring drinks, don't bring food, bring a friend, don't bring a parrot. We'll see you then.